Welcome back, Subjectivists, to the last week of SMAUGUST. Now, we got some good news and some bad news. The bad news, of course, being that it is the last week of SMAUGUST, which means that, unfortunately, this will be the last video for the month of August and my SMAUGUST drawing process. The good news is, however, that SMAUGUST doesn't have to end. I am going to be making all of my dragon designs available for purchase as stickers and t-shirts on Redbubble. I'll have the link down in the description. I encourage you guys to check it out. If you find your favorite dragon on there, go ahead and snag one for yourself. It would help me out a lot, and it would be so cool to see people walking around with their own custom SMAUGUST dragon stickers and t-shirts. I think that would be just awesome. So please go ahead and check that out. And we are going to dive in to week 4, the final week of SMAUGUST, guys. Let's get into it here. Day 22 was Leaf. Now, so far we have done Fern as a prompt for a dragon, and I didn't want this one to end up too similar. You know, they're both kind of plant-based. This one's a little bit broader, but I didn't want them to look too similar in their design. But I did end up kind of making them look related. I think someone commented on this final product and said that it looked like it could be some subspecies of the fern dragon, which I think was cool. A couple people said that this actually looked like Tropius, which I thought was funny because I didn't intend for it to look like Tropius. But recently I have gotten kind of invested in Tropius as a design of a Pokemon. You saw in the last video that went up on Sunday for the Galarian forms, I picked Tropius as the Pokemon that I chose to give a Galarian form. It was unintentional, and I did not, I didn't go into this thinking that I was going to make this look like Tropius. I kind of see it in the head a little bit. I'm kind of shocked. I guess the colors too are Tropius's colors, but it makes sense. Leaf Dragon, that's kind of what Tropius is. But that was kind of a funny coincidence because a few people said that it looked like Tropius, and that was not my intention. But I'm glad because I really like Tropius, and works with last week's video too. So that was Leaf, and I like thinking of it as kind of an offshoot, no pun intended, of the Fern Dragon family. Also very cute and mellow. Day 23 was huge. This was fun because it's the opposite of an earlier prompt that we had, which was tiny. And so I wanted to go in the opposite direction in terms of how I rendered this thing too, and instead of with tiny, where I had it just filling up a tiny little bit of the canvas, I wanted this thing to take up pretty much the entire canvas and have it almost touching the edge of the paper there. And of course, huge, the first thing that came into my mind was sauropods, that kind of generic long neck look. And sauropods are actually really, really cool, and there are a bunch of different ways that artists render sauropods. No one really knows exactly what they look like. Of course, this isn't, I wouldn't assume to be an anatomically correct sauropod in any way, even without the wings. But it's fun with these like giant, massive elephant turtle feet, kind of this like plated armor body. And to really sell the huge, I also included these little... I was thinking them as little dragons flying around its head, but they could be little birds or whatever, just to give it a little more sense of scale. And I went with a nice cool color scheme for this one. This is another one that's really fun to watch me drop the colors in, because I have this kind of gradient going from blue into purple and back, and then the pink on the stomach. But this was not one of my favorites, but I was really happy with this design. It kind of ended up different from what I was imagining in my head, but it was still cool. And I feel like it's a very different looking dragon. I don't think a lot of dragons out there existing already look like this, which is definitely one of my goals with all of my SMAUGUST dragons. I want to really create something new, and I think that should be goals for a lot of people, especially when handling a topic like dragons, which has been done so many different ways. So that was huge. Day 24 was grass. Again, another flora-based prompt, another green prompt. I didn't want to make it too similar to fern or leaf, and I didn't even want to make this look like it's in the same family. When I heard grass, the first thing that came into my mind was snake in the grass. So I was like, oh, I haven't done a snake dragon yet, and that makes a lot of sense, especially in European mythology. Dragons tend to be very snake-like, and in a nasty way. But I didn't want this to be a nasty snake. I wanted this to kind of be a cute snake. I think snakes are really cute. So I wanted to go with this kind of like impish almost look where, you know, he's in your garden and he's messing with your crops, but he's not going to bite you or anything. He'll run away if he sees you. Maybe he'll even become your friend if you talk nice to him. I don't know. But yeah, kind of this goofy little, and I gave him these little gecko arms and legs. So it was like serpentine body, but then with little gecko arms and legs, because I didn't want him to just be a snake. At first I thought I wanted to do that, but then I thought it looked too much like, again with Neopets, the Neopet Hissy. And I already did kind of a Buzz ripoff with my Venom Dragon. So I was like, yeah, I'll give him a little body. And I also got kind of weird with the wings. I don't think these wings would work for flying. Maybe we can say that they use them for digging or something. I don't know. I wasn't really thinking about it. I just kind of wanted to do something new with the wings. And so that's where those wings ended up. But yeah, I gave it, so grass is a little subtle on this one, and I kind of hit it right on the nose, like, oh, I'll give it these kind of like proto feather looking things that look like grass, maybe for camouflage. That's a little easy. I kind of wish I gave that a little bit more thought. But overall, I like this one. I think this is, again, a very different dragon for me. I don't really draw snakes all that often, to be honest with you, for as cute as I find them. So I was happy with this because it kind of forced me to draw something I don't usually do. I used a lot of reference for that snake head. Specifically, look up, I think they were African bush vipers was the one that I was referencing. Vipers particularly are very, very cute. They have those really big eyes, and they tend to be very colorful too, especially the bush vipers, the African bush vipers. So check those out. Those are really cool. Get a lot of inspiration from that. And that was the day 24 was grass, snake in the grass dragon. Cute little guy. I was happy with him. Day 25 was furry, and I think we all know where this is going. Of course, who wouldn't think of a cute dog and nothing else for furry? So yeah, I went with dog for this. I know a lot of people were expecting something else, but I knew all along that I wanted to make this a dog because earlier in the week on my stick dragon, one of my friends commented and said, oh, this is a stick dragon. Is there a dog dragon that goes with the stick dragons? Are they friends? And I was like, oh, furry. I'll do a dog dragon for furry. Now, I'm a little disappointed with this one. I did this the day I was moving into my new apartment. We just moved into a new apartment this weekend. And so I did this, I don't even remember when I squeezed this in, but I kind of rushed this one, unfortunately. So I wasn't super happy with it in the end. I feel like I could have done a lot better. I also don't draw dogs that often, or any kind of mammal for that matter. And I didn't use reference on this one, breaking my own rules. But I don't know, he's cute. And I feel like it's a good starting point. If I was to give this another shot, I would try to spend a little bit more time in the concept stage so it's not so generic looking. But again, this is an exercise in discipline, kind of get it done. Really had to get it done this time because I was moving into the apartment. So it was a little rushed, but still kind of a unique looking dragon. I don't know if I can think of any characters that are like dog dragons out there. There probably is one that I'm not knowing, something from like an 80s TV show. But here's my dog dragon for furry. I know what other people wanted for furry dragons, but that's not what we had. Day 26 was coral. This was a fun prompt. I knew from the beginning that this was going to be a fun prompt, so I was excited for this one. And originally I wanted to do a crab because I love crabs. I love drawing crabs. Crabs look cool. I don't love eating crabs. I like looking at live crabs. But when I drew the shape for the crab, I realized that it looked more like a manta ray from the underside. And I was like, ooh, a manta ray dragon would be even cooler. And I just drew a crab recently, so let's go with manta ray. So I did this manta dragon with arms and a kind of serpentine body at the end there. And I was really happy with it until I added the coral on the back. I felt like that was way too easy and kind of distracting and a little rushed looking. I didn't really like it. I'm looking at it now and I realized an easy fix for it. Literally, as I'm recording this, I'm looking at myself drawing this and I'm saying, oh my god, I should have given it like these antenna things coming from the front of its head, going back over its body, and that would have filled the negative space that the coral is occupying right now, and it would have looked a lot cooler because yes, the prompt is coral, but that doesn't mean I have to put coral on it. It's kind of like the grass dragon where I just kind of slapped grass on it. It's kind of lazy. So if I were to do this one again, I would do that. Nevertheless, I do like this dragon. A lot of people on Instagram said it was their favorite dragon for the month, or so far this was their favorite dragon. And that was good for me to hear, because I was a little disappointed in myself when I was done with it and I saw the coral on the back. I was like, that's kind of lame. But I do like it. I think it has a very unique feel to it. Kind of Subnautica almost, which is like one of my favorite games of all time. And they have amazing sea creature designs that are based off of real life creatures combined with elements of fantasy and sci-fi and all these cool ideas combined together. And I think I kind of achieved that with this one, which is awesome, because I think Subnautica has fantastic creature design. And if this was in a video game even half as good as Subnautica, I would be so honored. But yeah, when I went with the color scheme for this guy too, you'll notice, not here, but in the final product, I did change the color when I was messing around with the hues, adding in the final effects in Photoshop, because this obviously is like a coral pink, which from the beginning I knew I wanted to use for the dragon, for the coral dragon. But then I realized that the dragon that I had just done the day before had almost the exact same color scheme. Excuse me. And I was like, oh, I don't want to do the same color scheme twice. So I changed it to like this purple color as opposed to a pink. And I still like it. I kind of wish I had saved that coral color for the dragon and for the coral dragon, not the dog dragon, but Day 27 was Fairy. And now, because myself being a Yu-Gi-Oh fan, the first thing that I thought of when I thought of Fairy Dragon was Ancient Fairy Dragon, the card. And I think someone even suggested that on Instagram too, that I do an Ancient Fairy Dragon. But I didn't want to copy Ancient Fairy Dragon, and honestly I don't think Ancient Fairy Dragon is that cool. So instead I came up with a completely different idea based around mushrooms, because mushrooms are often associated with fairies in a lot of mythology, and just in general they kind of got this whimsical feel to them. And I wanted to make it a very dainty, tiny little dragon that you would find in your garden. Not the great, crazy looking. Someone said that the fairy dragon would be the deific dragon of this week, the god dragon of this week. Nah, I want this to be a little more like a sprite or a pixie kind of fairy, as opposed to a big, powerful, all-powerful fairy. So I went with the mushroom look. Mushrooms growing out of it. Maybe they're actual mushrooms, maybe they're just part of its body that look like mushrooms for camouflage. However you want to paint it, it's totally up to the viewer for me, because I was going with the look. Mushroom look. It can be whatever you want. And I gave it the little dainty insect wings that, a lot of times people think for fairies. No, I was happy with this design when I finished the lines. When I went into color, I got a little confused. It took me a while to settle on a good color, and even when I did, I wasn't really happy with it. If I could change anything about this dragon, I would change the colors. And I'm looking at it right now, my process, I'm saying at this stage, I'm like, oh, this looks good, why did I change it? And then when I go into actually coloring the mushrooms and stuff, I go crazy and I give them all these different colors, and I think it got too far away from what I was initially imagining in my head, and I don't know, I wasn't happy with the colors on this one. You tell me. Artists tend to be their own worst critics, so tell me if you think that these colors are weird. I think they are. I think I would go back in and change them, but my philosophy as an artist is when you're done, you're done. Learn from it, and then apply what you learned to your next piece. Don't spend a half an hour, don't spend a year trying to fix one piece. You don't learn anything from that. Day 28 was Steam. Now, Steam ended up being the longest dragon, the longest time it has taken me to draw a dragon of the entire month so far. I knew I wanted to do a mechanical dragon for Steam, but I do not draw machines or mechanical things all that often, and it takes me a really long time. And all the little details and parts, it pays off in the end, but the process itself took me a really long time. To give you some perspective on how long this was, the recordings that I have for each one of these things, I usually have to speed them up in order to make them long enough, or sorry, not speed them up, slow them down, opposite. I usually have to slow them down in order to have them, fill up enough space so that it's actually gives me enough time to talk. But this one, I actually had to speed up so that it would fit in with the same amount of time that I gave all of the other drawings. It just took me probably 7 or 8 hours to do this one in its entirety, and I think because of that I am going to make this one the deity dragon of this week to go along with the sun and the thunder and the metal. Now we have the steam dragon, and this is kind of like, I guess, a man-made god, which is kind of an interesting, if you have a narrative to go with that, there's an interesting twist as opposed to my other dragons, my other god dragons. But yeah, this was a huge challenge for me because I do not draw machines that often, and moving away from organic shapes with a lot of hard angles and lines took me a long time to kind of wrap my head around it. And but that being said, all in all, I was super happy with this design, and I think it's one of those things where the hardest challenges often pay off for artists, because if you stick in your comfort zone, you might get good at one thing, you might get really good at one thing, or you might kind of plateau and you stick at the same level and area of expertise for that one thing for way, way too long, and you can't really move past that. So I would encourage everyone for this exercise or for any art project you take on, force yourself to do things you don't normally do. And for me, that is drawing machines. And it's a shame because I like the way things like this look. I like Blitzcrank from League of Legends. I like that whole steampunk aesthetic, but I don't draw it all that often. And now when I do, turns out that I can actually do it pretty well. So there you go. There's my little philosophical experience for this week. And though it took me a really long time, it was super worth it in the end. This was also the first one where I overlaid a texture other than old paper. I used like a rust texture for this guy because I felt like he needed it. He deserved it after all that time. I should give him a separate texture. And that was Steam. So you guys tell me if you think that should be the deity dragon for this week. I think it should be. Day 29 was Tundra. Now, Tundra, you think polar bears. I thought woolly mammoth. I think part of it was because when I started drawing this, I was listening to Rusted Roots. So I was like, oh, Ice Age, send me on my way. And so when I started with this one, you'll see the initial design for this, I will end up scrapping. So I went super bear, like really into the whole bear thing. I gave him like big tusks, but his anatomy was pretty much that of a bear. And then when I started turning it into a dragon, you'll notice that the posing with the wings and the legs and the arm kind of looks similar, doesn't it? Doesn't it kind of look like Metal Dragon and Thunder Dragon? And I was heading down that road again, and I was like, no, I can't do that again. I'm not, I gotta come up with something different in terms of posing and anatomy. So completely scrapped that first idea. Not completely. I kept the idea, completely scrapped that pose. I still kept the bear with the tusks. I like the idea of like this, what's cooler than a polar bear with tusks. And so this was a very mammalian dragon, which again is a little foreign for me. I don't draw mammals all that often, but I love bears. They're cute, they're scary, all of the above. So again, went with this kind of bear dragon. This one ended up looking very Monster Hunter-esque. I think there is some Frost Monster Hunter monster, but not from any of the games that I played. So I don't know. Monster Hunter fans, let me know what this looks like when it's done. I'm sure you will either way. But I was happy with this one. It, again, was one of those things where I was kind of going out of my comfort zone, but unlike the dog, this one I think ended up a lot better. You could even say that this one could work for furry too, because I gave him a lot of heavy fur for the tundra climate. I'm actually getting kind of hot looking at this guy because it is just a lot of fur on there. But yeah, big, bulky, and then with the colors, I did a while ago, I had this commission that someone had me do for a D&D monster, and it was an ice goblin, and he said that the ice goblin has blue teeth, and I was like, oh, that's the coolest thing. Like, I don't know, something about that seemed awesome to me, so I wanted to do that with this one too. Mostly white, like a yellowish white, because if you look at like polar bears, they're not just white, they're like a yellowish white. and that helps with the contrast with the blue tusks and the blue armor plating that you see underneath his fur, and the blue claws and the blue teeth. I was super happy with the colors on this one. I was really happy with this one in general. This is another one where taking a risk really paid off for me, and it ended up being a very different dragon for me, drawing wise, but something that I was super happy with. So there you go. There's Tundra, and that's the last dragon of my SMAUGUST videos. It's not the last dragon of SMAUGUST. In fact, there are still 2 more dragons because this video is going up on Thursday, so there is still Friday and Saturday of dragons left for me to draw, but at this point, I am recording this on Wednesday. I haven't drawn those dragons yet, so they are yet to be seen. They won't be in this video, but they will be on my Instagram, so please be sure to check them out for the grand finale of SMAUGUST. But yeah, that's it. That's the end of SMAUGUST. Like I said, I do have my stickers and my t-shirts on Instagram to keep SMAUGUST going all year long, and they have those last 2 days. But that is the end of these videos, and it's a little bit sad because this was an unexpected but really fun exercise for me, and it was also a fun exercise for a lot of other people. It's so cool to see everyone else's ideas for SMAUGUST. It was it felt really good to see all of these people who got really into it after watching my videos. So I want to share some of the artwork other artists have done for this month's SMAUGUST. Some of them are related to the prompts that I did, some of them are not. But if you look at the SMAUGUST tag, there are a ton of really cool ideas. People really got creative with these, and it's so cool to see all these new dragon designs, and to think that I had some part in inspiring you guys to do this stuff. So please, please do not ever stop drawing dragons. I know SMAUGUST is over for now, but this, I feel like it's like my goal in life to get people to draw more dragons. You guys are making my dreams come true. So keep drawing dragons, and keep coming up with these awesome original ideas, because, like I said before, dragons can be a very static subject. They can go unchanged for a really long time, but if you guys keep coming up with ideas like these, we'll keep refreshing the whole concept of dragons, and that's really awesome, guys. So thank you so much for sharing SMAUGUST with me. I can't wait for next year. And until then, happy SMAUGUST. Keep drawing dragons, guys.